This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through Military Broadcast Talk.
Hey, we are live. I'm super excited. I have my new co-host, Josh McCabe. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, Eva. Thanks for having me on here. It's great.
Yeah, I am so excited. We're getting started on learning all the ins and outs. I don't know if y'all know, Josh was my guest last week, and he was so excited and loved the ability that we have to give veterans a voice that he was like, I'm in. I am all in. And, it's going to be a neat journey, Josh. I think you've got a lot to offer, and, sharing your journey. I think it's going to be a very rewarding experience, not just for you, but probably your family. And you'll probably learn that doing all this neat techie stuff is going to be a little adventure as well. So, but did you have a good week?
Oh, we did. We just, was trying to stay busy around the house, doing some projects, but I'm excited to be here helping you out on the show now. After that last discussion, we went off the air, we were talking about coming on and helping and giving back more. And when I talked to my wife after that, she's going to hate me for telling this, but she kind of had that tear in her eye, and she's like, you have a story that you need to tell these people, and you need to get on there with Eva and continue this. And just like you said, she's like, down the road, maybe there's your own show, and it's another opportunity to help more people. And I'm like, okay, I'm sold. Eva, let's do this. So I'm excited. Been prepared for this all week to kick this show off with you, and I'm ready to do it. Let's go.
Man, it's so that just warms my heart. You just don't know. That just warms my heart. I am so excited. My people garden grows in amazing ways. Right. And I reach out to people, and sometimes people are like tire kickers. I'm going to call that. Some people are tire kickers. Yeah, I want to be on your show.
That's right.
But then you don't ever hear from them, right? But I'm super excited that my next guest is not a tire kicker. He's a tire burner. I say that affectionately, Robert. I think it's appropriate. I was so excited. So I grew up in the racing world of things. My dad was an off-road racer with Jeeps. And so up in North Texas, off of 360 area, there's that whole area off of there in 183. We would go off-roading, and I had this phenomenal, I was a tomboy for sure growing up, but we did lots of Jeep off-road racing. Dad had a 43 Willis that he put the full roll cage in. My first vehicle was a CJ5 with the full roll cage. I had no top. It was the 77 Levi's edition. Loved that Jeep. And we had a phenomenal time, you know, just that whole racing atmosphere, and going cross country sometimes. And I was Dad's mechanic. I would get in there with the tools. So I learned how to turn a wrench at a very young age. So when I saw Rally4Vets, I stalked y'all's page for a while. I really got interested, and you know, I was even telling Dad about, you know, who my guest was going to be tonight and what we're going to be talking about. And he goes, yeah, those were the days, weren't they? Those were the days. And I said, yeah, but I never got to be behind the wheel. I mean, I had a nickname growing up. They called me Eva Andretti. That's the truth. But so Robert Warren Hess is our guest today, and he's an Army combat veteran, cancer survivor, entrepreneur, passionate advocate for veterans living with PTSD. He's the founder of Rally4Vets. It's a national nonprofit motorsports program under the Disabled Veteran Empowerment Network, or DVEN. And it's designed to build camaraderie, raise awareness, help reduce veteran suicide through action, connection, and speed. Gosh, he's done a lot. He went to VMI, graduated in 67, Armor Officer Basic, Airborne Ranger School, deployed to Vietnam with the 173rd Airborne Brigade at LZ English, and it just a phenomenal resume, bio. And anyways, we are going to have our interview of the week.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Welcome, Robert. Yay!
Hi, Eva. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Robert, welcome.
Yep, excited to be here. I love the video that ran, you know, as the intro, because it looked like they had guys going through Ranger School, you know, and then they had a bunch of tanks driving, and that was my first tours in Germany with the 11th ACR, you know, and then they had some artillery guys, but the one thing it was missing was helicopters.
Ah.
Now you can see I see an Apache, you know, in the screen behind you, but that leads me into a story about the first time I ever got shot at in my Army career, and it actually happened in Texas.
Oh no!
And yeah,
Go figure.
Go figure. And so the way it happened, and during Vietnam, the Army trained 10,000 helicopter pilots. You know, and during that conflict, the Army had more pilots in the Air Force and more ships than the Navy, you know, because of all the riverine stuff. But when you know, we basic training, you know, was down in Fort Walters in Texas, and you know, we had these little TH-55 helicopters. So on, well, they had two different versions, and you know, I went through with the TH-55. The other guys learned on the OH-13. But after you soloed, you know, usually with about 10 or 12 hours, then, you know, the goal was for you to just go out and fly. And so they had what they called stage areas. So you take off and you fly out in the countryside, you know, and they have little orange colored, you know, rocks and stuff. And your goal was to go out, find one, and then just do the, you know, follow the procedures, land at this thing. Then you had to get out, you know, and walk and physically mark out your takeoff, you know, track. And so you would do this and you would do that once again, twice, three times, and then you got kind of bored. So, but what does Texas have a lot of? Besides space.
Besides
Four
space,
legs.
yeah. I'm thinking, well, we have trees, we have steer.
Four legs.
Four
Lots
legs.
of cattle.
Cattle, yeah.
Cattle.
I said steer.
Okay, and so what better thing to do, when you're out in your helicopter is go down and chase cattle, right? Okay, and so, well, ranchers not particularly keen on that.
Not keen on that.
So that was the first time, that I got shot at, in a helicopter.
Oh, the rancher shot at you?
Yeah, the ranchers. Yeah. So
Wow.
I kind of knew what it sounded like from my first tour in Vietnam on the ground, but so this was the first time in the air anyway. So that's my Texas story. So
Yeah,
that's
you
interesting.
definitely don't.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, that's not surprising because I think Texas is one of the only places that you can still get in trouble for cattle rustling, right? So they'll still string you up for that. So, wow, what a story.
So,
but that's interesting. When I was at Fort Hood, I was actually a paralegal and I did the tort investigations, and we got lots of claims for damages for pilots scaring horses or cattle or emu into the fences or whatever. I'd actually went out on site and had to look at the emu that they were claiming were damaged.
Yep. Had to go out and find skin on the barbed wire.
Yeah. And there was one lady that claimed that her horse, she had a show horse that had never shown, but she was claiming thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah, funny. So
anyway, I'm delighted to be on the show. I've listened to your past one, and so I'm delighted to be one of your earlier guests. And hopefully the bar hasn't been set too high. I'll get through and I'll share something that's going to be of interest to somebody in the audience.
I hope so. I try to share that everybody's got a pain to purpose story. I think they really just don't know sometimes that they have a pain to purpose story. But if we're going to give veterans a voice and put any kind of dent on the 22 a day, then we have to share our stories, whatever that is. And the 4 pillars of pain that I have come up with really kind of focus on what it feels like sitting in a chair. The first pain that we, typically experience is going to be physical pain, which affects our mental and emotional and our spiritual pain. And when we start having an issue with any of those legs of the chair, we start losing stability, and we've got to try to get that straightened up so that we're on firm ground and not, falling out of the chair per se. But I saw on your, not just really your bio, but a lot of your other topics that would be of interest for somebody. What is one of those things that you want to talk about on your pain to purpose journey that somebody's going to be able to draw something from?
A great question. And, there's a couple of things. And, I've had 2 interesting experiences. Well, I've had a bunch, but, the first one, surprise came back in 2003, when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And so, this speaks to, the guys from back in the Vietnam era, the Agent Orange program, because, I'm an Agent Orange prostate cancer guy. And one of the things that, I learned from that experience, is that prostate cancer is one of those kind of invisible diseases. It really doesn't have any noticeable symptoms until it's at an advanced stage.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, being guys, most of us don't even know what the prostate is, where it's located or what it does.
Other than from what I hear, the doctor checks in a certain place in a certain way, and that's all.
That's true. And another funny story, the first one of those exams I ever had was when I went to flight school. Okay. And, I went in my annual flight physical, and get a little raunchy here, but, so there was the flight surgeon, and it seemed like every flight surgeon I ever met, played football at Stanford. I mean, because they were all big, had big hands. Sorry, Josh.
No, I'm right there. I know where you're headed with that, and make sure they take the rings off first.
Yep, exactly right. They say bend over and they do the check, and
that's right.
To be honest, I have no idea, what they were checking, because I was like 26, and hey, it's part of the exam. You're in the military. They say do this, you do that, and so what that physical exam, and this will come back to the story I'm going to tell in a minute. So when they do that physical exam, because of the way this prostate, where it's located, the physical exam, they can only feel 2/3 of it. And so what they're actually doing is feeling for anything, that's unusual, because the tissue is supposed to be soft.
Right.
But if they feel anything that's hard, then that's an indication that, there's a tumor there. So the physical exam, only the bottom 2/3. When I was diagnosed, my PSA was, and that stands for prostate specific antigen, and that's, kind of the current simplest blood test as an indicator of prostate cancer. My number was normal for my age, and that physical exam was negative. And as it turns out, I actually had 2 tumors in my prostate, but they were on the top of the prostate, so they couldn't be felt.
Right.
And the only reason I call myself the accidental survivor, because the way I was diagnosed, I went through this period in the summer of 2 weeks when it was just, I was just night sweats. I'd wake up and just perspiring, the bed sheets were soaked. So I finally went to the doctor. I'm thinking, well, malaria again, or something like that. And then I went through a series of 2 doctors, and I got to one physician who gave me a second test. And this is more than guys probably want to know. But you have this basic prostate PSA test. And then there's the second one. It's called a free PSA test. Okay. And there's a ratio between the two. Okay. And if it's outside that ratio, that means there's,
something's going on.
Prostate cancer exists. So this particular doctor gave me that test. There was that gap between those 2 numbers. And we did a bunch of biopsies, and that's how he found, my 2 tumors. And, had it not been for that period of night sweats or this particular physician that decided to give me that one more test, then a couple of years, I would have kind of been in that, well...
You wouldn't have been a different statistic.
Well, I wouldn't be on your radio show.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But I am totally great hearing this because, my dad's 82. And we've had some, he's talked to me about prostate, but I don't feel very informed. I don't know why we don't have better conversations, even with us, younger generation talking with our parents. I need to know these things because, who else is going to talk to them about it? So,
and so the standard, well, the medical community is still undecided exactly, when guys should test for this. And one of the things they say is, look, many of these these cases of prostate cancer will never progress. Somebody will have it and you'll wind up dying with it. And oh, by the way, maybe we're over treating this, treating too many, when they never need to be treated. And so my particular take on this is that's probably true. But a lot of these aggressive prostate cancers show up early, with guys in their 40s. Okay. And so it's not knowing that you have prostate cancer, okay, at some level. It's the decision that you and your physician make on how you're going to treat it, or if you're going to treat it, or if you can just watch it.
But ignoring it's not an option, though, right?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that it's like, go get the test, and if you're clear, you're clear. And oh, by the way, start at 40, and you can. As result of my diagnosis, I went back through my medical records and I said, okay, should I have known this? Should the doctors have seen this? And so I went back and looked at all my medical tests, and I got the numbers, and they run from 0 to, some guys have them in the hundreds. But if you're up around 6 or 7, that's a good indication, that there's something going on. So I went back, and I was in business school at this time. So I went back and I got all the numbers and I put them in a spreadsheet and then put a trend line on it. Okay. And all that trend line does is connect the dots.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking at it's going straight, and then it starts going up. Okay. And so that going up, okay, that, we all know the old intelligence and warning signals, right? From the military days, intel. So that was, an indication, hey, I should have known it, or, my doctor should have looked at it. So that's why, I was working with a software company then, and we created this little service online. It's called prostatetracker.org. People can go there, create a free anonymous account, and all they do is put in their PSA number, and 11 months later, they'll get an email that says, hey, it's time for your next one. You put your next number in, and it'll put a little trend line on it. And this website is actually hosted by my team in India. And I was looking at it the other day, and it looks like SSL certificate has expired. So if you go to the website right now, it's probably going to say, hey, danger, look out, somebody may be trying to steal you.
I was looking for it. I'm not seeing it, but maybe we can put it up during commercial. How does that sound?
I've got to talk to the team and get it.
Well, no. We'll see if we can find the website and post it. But
yep.
I'm going to go ahead and let us take a break. We're going to go ahead and play Soldier's Prayer by John Michael Ferrari. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
"60 years went rolling by. It was here we said goodbye. The war was brewing, it was extreme. We were only teens. I knew the day I died, all alone, my brand new bride. Our favorite song would be a sign I'd be back in time. So raise a flag with pride and grace. I seen the pain on a soldier's face. Bring me home, both sides say I'm a soldier of the USA. You weren't alone all these years. Seen you cry, I know your tears. You raised our child and a family, all without me. You've done well with your life, lots of friends by your side. I heard a nightly secret prayer. I was always there. So raise our flag with pride and grace. I seen the pain on a soldier's face. Bring me home, both sides say, I'm a soldier of the USA. Now it's time, my lovely wife, to bring you home. Say goodnight. Close your eyes to our favorite song. Can you see me now? Can you see me now? One day we'll come back in time for those we leave behind. But for now, we'll watch them grow. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home.
What a neat song. So I am Eva Fulton. I'm your host of the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I have my co-host joining for the first time tonight, Josh McKay from Texas. Woohoo! Yeehaw! And our guest tonight is Robert Hess with Rally4Vets. And if y'all haven't heard of Robert and all the things that he's done, you know, I found a lot of comfort. And I was telling you before the show, when I read your resume, it's your resume, but it's your bio and the things you do. I felt so comfortable not feeling, to me, like, you know, I probably have a lot of people think, gosh, there goes Eva again, squirrel. There goes Eva again, squirrel. Because I do different things, but I've had different periods in my life where I felt good or I didn't feel good, a headache, or, you know, broke my back twice in 2022. There was a while I was getting around with a rollator, you know, the VA's version of the Ferrari, you know, that red thing. And I despised it. I despised it even whenever I had to use the cane. But I felt a lot of comfort in seeing the things that you've done. And I don't feel so quite squirrel now. But I'm going to turn it over to Josh and let him ask a question.
Yeah. So, Robert, so many things to talk about, but so we just discussed your prostate cancer, and I agree that is something that we don't discuss enough in the male world, right? Because we all joke that that's one thing that we're going to die from because we're just not going through that testing, right? But it's life. You got to get there. But years later, after you got out of the military, you were diagnosed with PTSD. And then, so let's talk about both your PTSD, your cancer, and what did that support program look like for you coming out of all of that? Because if you ask me, support programs are probably the most important thing for a veteran to have through their recovery, because without the proper support, they're going to most likely become one of those statistics of the 22 a day, right? So you went, not only did you have a support program, you created a group called DVEN. So let's talk about your support program, DVEN. What does all that look like? What does it stand for?
Yeah. So DVEN is a nonprofit charity. It is the worst possible ever name for an organization. It stands for the Disabled Veteran Empowerment Network. So it tells what its mission is and what it does, but it's a terrible name to pronounce. You know, and it's acronym.
I'm going to beg to differ on that, because I thought at first it was like an acronym for driven, only the R wasn't there. And I was like, if you just say driven, I you know, just make it the R small and then you're good to go. Because if it's riding with Rally4Vets.
Oh my God, Ava, that's great. We need you in our marketing team for sure.
Okay.
Squirrel, Eva, squirrel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh, it's an interesting thing. My PTSD diagnosis came in 2018. And so this is, so many years after my last, combat deployment.
Yeah.
And the VA got me there. And so I want to give a shout out, to the VA for I think the great work they do for veterans. Now I know that some guys and gals have challenges, but my personal experience has always been really, really good. And let's give the VA the benefit of the doubt and say if they fail, it's not on purpose. It's
right.
something else. But I got to that diagnosis because I'd gone in, and somehow they decided that I should go, see a psychologist. And, I did. And what that psychologist made me do is go back and write down, literally document every single action that I had been in through both of my tours. It's everyone, all of the guys that, were, injured, the guys that were lost. I went through that whole process. And, for me, it made a huge, huge difference. Even after all those years, after I did that, it literally was like this weight lifted, from my shoulders. And I think, to me, these emotional, experiences that men and women have, when they're in the service, maybe in combat, maybe some other way, but there are things that they carry and they don't talk about. And it's very similar to, the prostate cancer issue with guys. So it's something that, they internalize. And just as I found that the best way to talk to a guy about prostate cancer was one-on-one, I found the best way to connect with, guys and, women, about emotional experiences is also one-on-one. And so that's how we got into the Rally4Vets motorsports program. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, because it's fun. Ava, as you know, I got, my first experience, with motorsports was 1968 in Germany on the Autobahn with my first Porsche. And, that was the first time, in my life you could ever get on a road and drive with no speed limit. And so that was fantastic. So I've loved that ever since. And so what I decided to do is find a way, to use motorsports to, bring veterans together and connect veterans and companies that are interested in supporting veterans. So we created, the world's only military inter-service motorsports competition. And you can think of it as the annual Army-Navy game, football game, but played out on a racetrack, with all the services able to play. So and the format, it's really kind of safe. You actually, on the screen right there, see one of the cars that's in competition. So our event isn't wheel to wheel. So we don't put 100 guys out on the, the road, or 20 of them like they do in F1. It's what we call a time trial. So guys are driving the course, and gals, we need more women. Shout out, Ava, if you're up there, we will get you in our car this year.
I'm in.
You will drive.
Eva, can you do the live show from the car while you're going around the track? Is that possible?
I don't know. I wonder if we could probably figure out some way. I have a GoPro, so
There you go.
Well, you might have to be recording, through your iPhone.
Yep, I got that.
But if you can bring it from your iPhone, we can certainly live stream. I think this StreamYard will take that feed. But anyway, so the format is basically 10 to 12 drivers on each service team, and they make in a day 16 runs, for their team, and we score them. Okay, we score them by whether they're a novice driver or an experienced driver, and then by class of cars. So if you're driving a Mini Cooper, you're not in the same class as somebody that's driving a 911 GT3. So we make that all even. And at the end of the day, we score 5 deep. We total up the points, and whatever service comes up with the most points is the top dog for that year.
Awesome.
So far, the Army has won twice. The Air Force has won once. And Marine Corps has won once. So this October is year 5. And so you don't have to have a race car. You can bring your daily driver.
My truck. I'm going to bring my truck.
No, sadly no pickup trucks, but we will stuff you in our, right now our Mazda Miata, unless Toyota decides to come on and become a sponsor. And so this is all about, and we take the funds we raise and we apply that to a service dog program.
Awesome.
So that's what we're doing there. And of course, it's all about, just, getting the services together, camaraderie, talk a little smack and, whatever. So this year, we're doing something different. It's a 2-day event, and day 1 is going to be just practice.
Cool.
So anybody can come and drive and learn the course. They're going to be driving the same course on Sunday for time that they will be on Saturday.
Right.
So it's a practice. We're going to have classes there for people that haven't driven the track before. And I don't know if I told you, but we have developed a relationship with Amazon MGM Studios, and there is a chance that Jack Carr, the author of The Terminal List, will be with us there in October as the event Grand Marshal. Now, I hope he's not listening to this because we haven't asked him yet. We're gonna meet with him up in New York, one of our team, on Monday, because Amazon MGM. This is Monday in New York is the premiere of Terminal List Dark Wolf, which is the prequel to the Terminal List series. And so they've given us 50 tickets, and we're passing out those to veterans that live up in the New York area.
I have a friend that lives up in New York.
Yep. So they'll be up at the premiere.
Cool.
So that's
awesome.
what we're doing with PTSD.
Yeah.
And of course, these programs are all focused on connecting, number one, getting veterans to talk about it.
Yeah.
And veterans that aren't dealing with the issue to talk to a veteran who may be, bringing them together and just connecting them to resources. Now, we're not counselors, but the VA has programs here. As we all know, there's a number of other veteran organizations that are in this business.
Right.
Yeah. Robert, I love that you have built Rally4Vets. I think this is a great opportunity for those veterans to come together and do something different. There's a lot of groups out there that do the walks and the rucks and all the other events, and those are great, but I think it's a different avenue, for those veterans that come out. And I think it's a little bit biased towards the Navy, because we don't have ships out there driving,
Uh-huh.
right? It's the only
Well,
thing I've
Josh,
ever
are
raced
you-
in my life.
Are you a Navy vet?
I am a Navy vet, so we have Blue Angels and destroyers. That's the only thing we race. So can't get those on the track. But
Oh
no,
my
I
God.
think this is great. I think it's another great, wonderful opportunity to bring that suicide awareness, especially and get those vets talking about
I
it.
wonder if part of it is that there's the adrenaline rush thing. I mean, because
Absolutely.
I openly admit I have become kind of an adrenaline junkie over the years. I mean, I'm not afraid of swimming with sharks when I go scuba diving. So
Uh-huh.
there's got to be something to be said for that.
Well, now that.
Well, I
well,
think
that-
that's why we all join, right? Is for that adrenaline rush, and a lot of those jobs that we do in the military is for the adrenaline rush, and I think that just it gives us another opportunity to do that. So I think this is
Well,
great.
Somewhere I read a statistic that the military services have a higher proportion of ADHD people than the normal and Josh, that actually speaks to that kind of sense of adventure or that kind of risk taking.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll blame it on Dad for teaching me to get out there and go four-wheeling when I was, a youngin'.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling him that we had that conversation about the
Yeah.
reflector runs. Yeah, that would be a whole different series of things to do. It's fun.
Yeah, we have a number of things that we kind of played around with. We're going to be doing in the future,
Yeah.
and one of those things I call it a weekend restaurant run, which is just kind of a fun drive, through some twisties, ending up at a nice place to eat, so that significant others might come along.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that.
And so we've done one of those, and we've created a group, Rally4Vets group, on a platform called Roadster.io. And this is a platform. It's basically just car enthusiasts all over the world.
Is it an app?
It is an app. They have an app and they have a website.
Okay.
It's
So-
called Roadster. Well, here, let me put it in the.
Are you going to put it in the chat for people?
Yeah, can I put it in the?
Feel
yeah,
free. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
See.
Yeah. I'm glad you're bringing that up with the family, because I think involving the family in these discussions and these events is just as important, because they're dealing with the veterans as well with PTSD and suicide awareness. And when you can bring the spouses together to talk with the other spouses and see how they handle things and what they can do, I think that's awesome that you're involving the family in these type of events.
Josh, you're exactly right on that. And have you guys? I don't know. Have you seen the documentary Brothers at War?
Not yet.
Sure
I
if I
haven't,
did.
no. I've
No.
heard some really good things about it, though.
So that was done a couple of years ago by a producer named Jake Redemacher, and Jake's brother was deployed to Afghanistan, and Jake went over there and deployed with them and made a documentary about it. But he came back, and just last year he did a second documentary, and it's called Brothers After War. And it follows these same people that he was embedded with the first time, and he talks about the stresses about that they went through after they came back, and he also focuses in on what you were talking about, Josh, which is the families.
Yeah.
Right.
The burden, and sometimes in a way, I told my wife. I think it's harder on the families of somebody that has cancer than on the person that has it. And the same thing, I think it's more challenging for the families dealing with a veteran that's dealing with PTSD, than the veteran themselves, because the veteran just focused mainly inward.
Mhm.
Okay, and the family has to, deal with that, and with their own challenges. And so,
Exactly.
wherever we
Yeah.
can, we try and make it a community of family program.
Well, I know. So, in case y'all heard, this event is happening in West Virginia at the Summit Racetrack, right? Isn't that what it's called? The Summit Racetrack.
Yep.
And it's October 10th and 11th. And I am planning on doing a live that weekend. I am certainly excited about going. I think it'll be fun to go live from out there. Hopefully Josh can convince his wife for your anniversary weekend.
Yeah. We'll see about that one.
Yeah, I know. I already asked Jose, and he's running a marathon that weekend. So go figure in DC.
gosh.
I think it's the Marine Marathon. But, but I'm going to drag Dad. Dad was like, sure,
good.
I'll go.
I tell you what, you bring this down to the Texas Motor Speedway and I'll be all over it right there.
Oh, good. Yeah, I can see you pitching this now. Gosh,
Hey.
dear. For our anniversary, why don't we drive from Fort Worth up to Washington, D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
and have some snacks at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, let's involve the family, right?
Well, let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and ask the question that we probably should have asked but didn't ask, and kind of get what Robert's insights are. And we also have to talk about the Vetties, because I have been to the Vetties before, so we got to talk about the Vetties too. We'll be
Fantastic.
right back.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana, to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. Oh.
All right, we are back. That was Copy Anderson, Mr. Red, White, and Blue. You know, I love listening to these different songs. I actually wrote a song, so I can't wait to be able to find an artist that can sing it and a band to play it. I did some AI stuff on it, and I've tested some people listening to it. I may send you the link that I created. I did a little video. They're my words. I'm not singing. Y'all don't want to hear me sing. But there's not very many female patriotic songs, you know? So I wrote a song that is for Desert Storm and talking about that. Yeah. So, anywho, I have Josh with me co-hosting, and welcome to the stage with me, Josh. And Robert Hess is with Rally4Vets. We have been learning about his journey with prostate cancer and PTS, a late diagnosis. And I meant to say to you earlier, Robert, welcome home, because I know that, you know, as a Vietnam veteran, you were not always welcomed home. And thank you for agreeing to interview with me. I think that your journey has been very interesting, and I love seeing the things that you have been doing. So, you know, thank you for being here.
It's my honor. Absolutely delighted.
Thanks. I know we mentioned, let's see, what did I say? I know you do bicycling. That's a stress reliever.
Yeah.
You get outside. What is the Alpine Loop? What is that? Is that still part of the bicycling?
Yeah, it's a bicycle race, race and ride. That this year is the 13th year we've done this. And it's down in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley. And it's a great ride. I formed this, 13 years ago with a gentleman named Jeremiah Bishop. And Jeremiah Bishop lives there. He is a pro mountain biker. And 13 years ago, he was looking forward, you know, trying to put, well, a Gran Fondo, you know, it's kind of an Italian word. It's basically rides that are 100 miles long.
Okay.
And, you know, and people love to do them. So we put this together, and it was, you know, really for us, it came out of the charity. And so for us, it's a prostate cancer awareness event. And, you know, over those 13 years, you know, that I know of, you know, we've identified, you know, seven guys, you know, that told us that they had detected their prostate cancer, you know, as a result of going through the, you know, the event, listening to us, and then taking our advice and going and getting a PSA test. But anyway, so that's what it's about. But, you know, for me, physical activity has always been the way that I could best control, you know, my emotions.
Right.
And, you know, bicycling for me is a great way. You know, we all learned when, I don't know, we were 5 or 6, you know, and you just get on this thing and you don't have to worry about anything except turning the pedals.
Yeah.
You know, and you're outside and you're looking at things, and depending on where you live, you know, you're probably out there, you know, riding through fields or through a forest. And, you know, psychologically, we all know that that has a great impact. So that is one thing that always worked for me. And then there is another one of these platforms called Strava.com. And Strava.com is this worldwide internet group of people who ride and run. Okay. And what they've done, it's probably maybe 15 years old now, or maybe more. But if you have a you know, a GPS tracker, you know, heart rate monitor, or anything that tracks your location, then it tracks you as you're running or riding. And of course, it tracks everybody else that's running and riding on a similar path. And so it lets you measure your current time against your previous times, but also how you're doing against other people. And so it's turned into this huge community. And what we did is I actually have two groups on there, because it's like anything, like Facebook, you can create a group. So one group is for cancer survivors, and there's also a Rally4Vets bicycling group. And we've got people in that from all across the U.S., and we're working on growing it. So once a week I'm on there, and it shows who's ridden the farthest, climbed the most vertical feet, most time. And so I usually go in and just do a little post and give a shout out to whoever's the number one person that week. And so it's just it's a virtual community. And so that's the bicycling thing. And then of course I like to go to the gym. My wife loves yoga, so we do yoga, and that's kind of in the meditative thing.
Right. Because it's balance.
It's
can't
balance.
always be physical. Sometimes it's about the calm and stillness side of things.
Yep. So it's kind of another one of these Zen-like things, right? Because you're not, it's not active like Zumba. She also does Zumba. I tried that once. It was,
hey, I know that feeling, believe me.
The worst experience of my life. So there's all these women. There were two guys. There's all these women in there, and they're doing everything perfectly choreographed.
Not me.
They're actually in step, and there I am so completely out. It was a terrible experience. So that was not a stress reliever. So I dropped that off my checklist. But
you dropped it off of your living list, huh?
Yeah, yep, it's gone.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, so anybody that's interested, I mean, if they're a cyclist or on Strava, they can connect with us, at Rally4Vets. We're also on, at Facebook at Rally4Vets. We're on Instagram there. People should just pop on over to our website, Rally4Vets, and they can see what we're doing with the various programs. We have volunteer opportunities, and I'm looking at the time spinning down. And as Ava, as you said, we do have the Betties coming up again in January 2026. And, this is a black tie. Wear your medals, wear your mess dress, if you're in. Ladies, in this case,
we wear our medals too.
Wear your medals in your mesh dress, or if the distaff side, get that ball gown out. So it is a black tie, and once again, we will be honoring veteran service organizations around the country that are doing great things for vets.
Awesome. I went in 2018. It was a gorgeous event. It was like the Grammys for veterans. It was really cool to participate in. We have a minute. Thank you so much for joining, Robert. I have, the rest of August is all booked, and can't wait to have all my guests on. So thanks again. Y'all have links out there. Join Rally4Vets, and I'll be seeing you in person in October.
And I'll be seeing you in the driver's seat.
Oh, yay, that's so fun. You made my day. All right. Thank you all. Y'all have a great evening and be blessed.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.